Caribou Weather Dude YouTube channel with another weather update for British Columbia. Let's go.
There it is. This is bad news. Come on, get on. Falling out right now. Anything could happen.
Get on. Wow. I'll watch the video later. Gonna have a little bit of snow moving through the province over the next 24 hours or so, starting with the north coast, sliding on down. Nothing major for lots of you. Some of you, none at all. Of course, up in the north coast, snowfall warning. Let's have a look at the bad news battle board. A little bit of fog and some slippery sections this morning in the Quesnel area, and no word from me if that's still continuing. However, we are looking at 35 centimeters max up on the north coast. That's inland, including Stewart. A frontal system moving on to the north coast is spreading snow at times, heavy over the north coast inland sections today. Snowfall of 25 to 35 centimeters can be expected near Stewart by this evening. The snow will taper off over the night as the front moves to the south. What else is going on out there? 10 to 20 centimeters for that little southwest corner of Saskatchewan, southeast corner of Alberta, over to Ontario. Some of the extreme cold warnings are starting to subside, but this one's still there, minus 40. Up for central sections of Lake Superior, snow squall warning for 20 centimeters there. Never-ending snowstorm. Lake effect snow off Lake Michigan and Superior is expected to affect portions of Highway 17 from Botchawana Bay to Montreal River today. Wow. It just never stops, these snow squalls there. Can you believe that? There'll be 50-kilometer-an-hour gusts also coming off Lake Superior today. Travel will be hazardous. Out in Manitoulin, they're now down to a special weather statement, a weather advisory, 10 centimeters by Thursday morning there. For Parry Sound and areas north of 10 to 20, 30 centimeters. It just never seems to stop there. Just north of Parry Sound, this all is, actually. 20, 35 centimeters. Oh, man. What are you guys doing with all this snow? It's like the kind of snow you expect to see here in Wells, and it's happening in Ontario consistently. Wind chill values of minus 30 hanging out down there still. It just doesn't want to let go of that one little area, and still a little bit of snow off the Lake Huron there. But other than that, starting to see a lot of the stories subside. Smog warning there in Quebec. My wood stove's warming up, so it just made a loud boom. And behind me, I'm not sure if you could hear that or not, or if the mic picked it up. 20 centimeter squalls, so that's kind of the deal right now. New Brunswick hitting all-time cold temperatures, minus 27.3, beat the old record that was set in 1994 in St. Stephen area. That is super cold for you. Not very used to that, are you? Meanwhile, warm temperatures are being broken here in the Northwest Territories. 4.3, 5.9, 0.5 in Toledo. Like a Wrigley almost hitting zero as well. So having a look at the Avalanche board, we've got green conditions all through southern BC. Green conditions going on. Been very quiet because we haven't had a lot of snow. Right, so conditions are pretty safe. I mean, we had a number of incidents at the start of the year just to remind us to be, a little extra cautious, even though it might seem safe. But yeah, we're not having repeat major avalanche events where really large scale avalanches are making themselves. So that's not the case necessarily for the Northwest still, where they're suggesting you make conservative terrain choices because of wind slabs and whatnot that have been forming there. And that would include even for the Kitimat area. And that would be the same for the Kitimat area. Anticipate wind and storm slab reactivity and size to increase throughout the day on Wednesday. So that is what we are watching. But all in all, Western Canada looking pretty groovy for avalanches this season. Let's have a look and see what our awesome friends at Avalanche Canada are saying today. They're saying that there's a new funnel system arriving. I've been telling you that for a couple days. Yeah, hey, I called that Texas thing, didn't I? Man, in New Orleans, about 12 days before it happened, I was saying in the channel here. So that's why you want to hit like, share, and subscribe and keep coming around, because tend to get it right here. So funnel systems arriving from the Gulf of Alaska. It's spreading snow north to south for the next 2 days. The heaviest snowfall is expected over the northwest ranges. The funnel system will weaken as it reaches inland on Thursday. A ridge of high pressure rebuilds on Friday and onwards. So in other words, it's not going to stay a snowy story. In fact, I don't see significant snow coming to much of BC before the end of the month. I'm not seeing it yet. That could change maybe, but no, most of everything is being directed up towards Alaska, and we're just getting these sort of hand-me-downs. So although we do have this little bit of precipitation that could be moving on down through on Wednesday and make things into Thursday, make things a little bit slippery in places, as you can see, that high pressure establishes itself back out in the Gulf of Alaska and really right off the coast of Vancouver Island. That high pressure being a great block, sending moisture maybe into eastern locales or northern locales, but mostly avoiding us. So we look over the next week or so in BC, we're not seeing much of a snow signal, even though we have a little bit coming through on Thursday. We'll be thankful for it. We'll take what we can get. But I'm starting to feel, I've been saying this now for a little bit, I'm starting to feel like we're not getting the snow load into BC, even though River Forecast Center doesn't seem to agree with me yet. I think that they will when they make their next updates on February 1st. So just hoping that little warm slot comes in here nicely today. We could use a little bit of that warm up. I mean, it's going to maybe be a couple degrees warmer as this gets going. It's minus 13.7 right now. And let's see, what time is it? It's 9:28 in the morning at the time of recording. So it might take me a couple hours to get this out. So be aware that not everything I say on this channel is going to be exactly correct. In terms of the temperatures or things like that. It's like, oh, it's minus 14 right now. And you're like, no, it's not. When you watch the video. So keep that in mind. But yeah, the valley clouds, nice, good. So that warm slot coming in ahead should bring a little bit, a tiny bit of a warm up over the next 24 hours and beyond. It won't last very long. That high pressure will reestablish itself when it does. We are looking at snow spreading in the northwest ranges. Snow to liquid ratio is 5-1, 10-1. So snowfall accumulations could be 10 to 15 centimeters. Snow will go to the northern interior ranges today. As for the Yukon, 10 centimeters accumulation maybe for the Klondike, South Klondike, strong south to southwest ridge tops for you as well there. And on day 2, we'll see how that trough just kind of makes its way sliding on down south, as it will. Mainly cloudy down the south coast. You're not going to see a whole lot there. This is mainly for central interior, especially east of. So for the Rocky Mountains and Caribou Mountains, Columbia, Selkirks, those are areas that might see a little bit of this. By the time it makes its way south, it should have expended most of its energy, unfortunately, for a lot of you. So in the wake of the cold front, snowfall accumulations over the northwest ranges will see some flurries on Thursday. Funnel system will weaken as it moves south for the entire coastal ranges. Snowfall will be 2 centimeters or less on Thursday, so not a great deal. Vancouver Island South Coast have above freezing levels finally between 2,500 meters in the valley bottom. In the morning, as the cold front moves south, the freezing levels will plummet later Thursday, so we'll start getting colder again. Okay. Snow accumulation in the BC interior to spread south on Thursday. It's a weak funnel system, okay? Snowfall accumulations will be 5 centimeters or less for a lot of you places. Flurries, moderate to strong on the ridge, okay, for the Klondike. So same for you, same for you. We got this ribbon of moisture that is coming towards the province right here. You can see it's coming on in. And although we have high pressure down here, 1048, very high, we're going to watch new high pressure sort of cousin this establish itself here. And it's going to help with that general motion that's going to help, send things southward with this weak frontal system as it does. So here, we'll hit play on the tape and we'll watch how that makes its way on down. There it goes. And, boof, there's your high pressure now showing itself. You can see expanding out towards the entire Gulf of Alaska, North Pacific. And you can tell because that high pressure has that counterclockwise motion like so. That's what high pressure is in the north. That clockwise motion, I should say. Counterclockwise is for the low. That will be what helps deliver some things into the prairies that we won't necessarily see. So we'll play that out for a second and we'll watch it go. Watch it go. Boom. There you go. A little bit of flurries into the prairies. There you go. A little bit of flurries to the weekend. Well, nice and high pressure in BC. In terms of temperature, it's not too bad. Not too bad at all. In fact, look at that. We're hitting some warmer moments there, looking like next week at times. and finally maybe next week seeing some stormy weather. And we look at the ECMWF model, maybe a slightly more complicated version, but it gives us more or less that same graphic the GFS did. So I would call that cooperation between the two. They seem to see eye to eye. We'll make a new bad news show here soon. Yeah, maybe today, maybe not. Well, it depends. The bad news show is not going to be an everyday thing. That's the thing. It's just like, when I feel like I got something to say, I'm going to say it. So what are we looking at for temperatures? We did see how it's going to warm up a little bit next week, so just want to have a peek at that and see what the models are showing. But a little bit of relief. A lot of Canada looking a lot warmer than it has been for sure. Ooh, there it is. Bam. So next week, Monday. Okay, well, let's have a little closer look at this before we go. Just looking over the last 12 hours, looking at how that's moving up its way into the north coast there. Spreading some for Stewart, Terrace, and whatnot. Spreading some up into the far north today. A little bit of snow for you, and we'll have a look now here in a second how that's going to move its way on down into lower sections of BC. And we'll look at the ECMWF because I find the Euro is one of the best modeling systems there is. So that low out here, it's going to just go up towards Alaska. We're not going to see any of that. So we are only seeing this here today. So I got that snowfall up in northern BC, right? Terrace seeing some of that through the day, a little bit through the north coast. I mean, that hose is pointed right out there for you Haida, so expect some windy moments at times today. Let's see, what are you looking at right now for wind? Anything crazy going on there today? What do we got for winds right now? And 59 at CWWL Airport there. Ship reporting 46s, 41s on a ship out there. So gusty, breezy, blowy, but nothing the ocean isn't accustomed to there going on today. Meanwhile, a little bit windy in the Fort St. John area, it looks like, right? What are we looking at for temperatures right now? Again, it's early. These temperatures will change by the time you get this video to you, but 0 along the coast there, so some rain, some snow for you in Terrace probably, as how that's going to play out, and then minus 12s and whatnot, minus 10s, minus 14s to the Caribou, 10 down to Quesnel. Not too bad. All in all, our temperatures across the board in Canada, Western Canada, are significantly more enjoyable than they were just a number of days ago, especially for those of you who are in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, who are seeing a significant warm up to temperatures that are more seasonal like, right? Meanwhile, we do have some extreme cold warnings continuing for Ontario, but that doesn't look too bad to me, minus 15 for London. So we'll see. Maybe at nighttime, though, with the blowing snow and the blowing cold off of the Great Lakes, it seems to be the never-ending snowstorm for you there. And meanwhile, we have a look. Here's our guy for the East Coast. That's really going to become quite an explosive storm. We'll come back to Wednesday at 5 in the afternoon, but this is the one we've been talking about for a bunch of days. 9:40, straight to the UK Isles at 9:38 millibars, bringing atmospheric river, bringing strong winds. Going to be a very destructive storm, impacting much of Europe and whatnot. Okay, back to BC for the day of Wednesday. And if I don't get to another bad news show here today and make another larger outlook at things, you want to see how things are shaping up in the prairies, the states, or whatever. I give my larger forecast to you all. Then bear in mind tomorrow night's the Meteorological report here on the channel. And all our weather nerds and meteorologists and whatnot will be happy to answer all your questions. So now we're back at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday. Seeing that snow, I got the coffee hiccups again. Happens all the time. It's like all the talking and the drinking coffee at the same time. So snowfall for Prince George this evening, looking like maybe the strongest signals in the mountains to the east of you. Pretty strong snow signals in the coast mountains there. Looks like heavy rainfall for lower elevations, I would suspect. I'm sure if we went into temperature, we looked at elevation. went up and down elevation, we'd find it'd be pretty warm at sea level, but a little bit warmer. That looks like a pretty good snow signal, I think, tomorrow morning, actually, for the Caribou Mountains. That looks better than we've been seeing for me. So that could be for the Caribou a little bit more snow. I would think that this band will move through and make it kind of messy for Prince George, Quesnel, Williams Lake. It's fairly fast moving, so you may have just a couple hours of that snow coming down pretty hard. Therefore, you won't have the accumulation. However, it's going to be during your work day, so that could have its own complications that you might want to be forewarned of. And then by the time it makes its way south, you can see it's really kind of, spilled its guts and doesn't have much left. And there's just some lingering flurries kind of stuck in the mountains there. But for the Kootenays, you really don't see too much. Meanwhile, the prairies are seeing this more robust system to the north of them. I guess that would be a Nunavut low there. Coming out to the Hudson Bay, look at it, that's not a strong snow signal either, but nonetheless, you're going to have a fairly, reasonable chance of seeing some of that snow. Alaska getting a lot of it. That high pressure sitting off the BC coast, and you can see it's got that clockwise motion. It's just delivering tons and tons and tons up north while keeping BC completely blocked. This is a bad thing in my estimation because we require more precip into the province, and we're just not seeming to get that. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit while before we have precip to talk about. Warm to the north, right? Warm now, a little better than we saw yesterday in terms of temperatures up to the Arctic. But, it's not like a nice round polar vortex. I'm not sure if they're calling this a polar vortex outbreak for a bunch of meteorological reasons that I don't need to bore you with. But for all intents and purposes, it's a polar outbreak. It's an Arctic air mass that's escaped and got away. Friday evening, back to some chillier temperatures for areas like the Chilcotin. Could you see down to 20? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, could see some 20s. Could see some 20s in the Rocky Mountains. Could see some 20s in southern BC. Probably a little warmer in northern BC even than southern BC coming to Saturday morning at 5 a.m. You look at even chance of areas hitting 0 up in the Fort Nelson area, right? So completely bizarre. Lake Louise will be very cold. Banff will be very, very cold. That high pressure still setting in there for Saturday. You can see that the Chinook conditions are more or less existing along the east flank of the Rocky Mountains. Well, BC remains kind of cold. And that's what I referred to the other day as stable temperatures. Like throughout, if you look at 8 days in a row, there's not a huge fluctuation for a lot of us in what the temperatures are going to be like. It's kind of settling into a pattern right now that's sort of stable, sort of normal, nothing too crazy or wild going on, this, that, and the other, right? But look at the warmth up to Alaska. Look at some of that warmth up in the Yukon. These are areas, that's the Arctic Circle up there, hitting 2 degrees in fucking January. But, I don't have any shortage of people who say, where's the climate change? Where's global warming now? Where's global warming here? It's right there. It's right there, okay? And where else is it? Well, here's a good example. 38. So it'll be daytime in Australia when it's 2 p.m. here. So that will give you 40 degrees Celsius. Now, this is why the warmest time of the year is actually our summer, because you have to understand that most of this is just ocean. Now, the ocean is warming, yes, but it's the continental land masses where cold and hot are really experienced the most, right? So during the winter, these continental areas like Siberia, like Saskatchewan, they get extremely, extremely cold. In the summertime, they get extremely, extremely warm. That's their nature, and that's their overall effect on planet Earth. So when you have more land mass getting cold in the wintertime, that brings the entire global temperature down just a little bit. So the coolest time of the year on planet Earth is still our winter, despite the fact it's not winter everywhere. The warmest time that planet Earth gets every year is during our summer, because again, there's so much land mass, and you can see that this polar setup isn't large. It just covers a very small part of the very top of the planet. 10% or less of the planet is under that, probably less, yeah, absolutely, is under that Arctic air mass, right? And you can see that Arctic air mass has got warm slots that are getting all the way up into -9 up at the Arctic there. So that's almost right to the North Pole itself. So where's your global warming now? It's right there in Alaska. You're seeing it, despite the fact that you're not seeing it in your own backyard. That's not how weather works. Just because you are experiencing something, you have to understand the difference between climate and weather. Climate is the range of weather possibilities that can happen. And in climate change and in global warming, we have never said that the range of possibilities for weather does not include winter events. In fact, we understand quite well how warming temperatures are resulting in the cold being forced out of its region more and more and more. So looking at next week, Monday, are we going to see some snow in BC? Come on, man. We need some of this. So that's a ways out. We're not gonna guess at forecasting, but hopefully next week, some of this can make its way into the province. We need this moisture really bad. But I'm thinking by the time we hit February, we really won't have put on. And January is often a dry month, so let's not be too shocked. But we're looking, maybe not until February itself starts to hit that we start to see a little bit of a change in that pattern. February is often a very snowy month in BC. We do have time to make back on some of this. If this storm comes together next week, that's a long ways out, but I'm just giving you a heads up now. We could be into a pretty wild pattern again if this thing manifests its friggin' self. Okay, that's the bad news show for today. Hit like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. Please keep supporting the channel. Really appreciate all your support all the time. Definitely need it because, views went down, but still my revenue hasn't gone down too much because a lot of people are still chipping in and being channel members and supporting and sending donations. So thank you, everybody, very much. Hope you enjoyed what I had to say today. Okay, bye now.